Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we'll be previewing the Miami Hurricanes. Last year I predicted them to go 9-3 with a 5-3 conference record, and they actually went 7-5 with a 3-5 conference record. So not overall a disappointing season, but definitely did not meet expectations. Some key departures from the team: edge Jaden Wayne and Nigella Kelly, wide receiver Colby Young, another edge in Cyrus Moss, defensive tackle Leonard Taylor, safety James Williams and Cameron Kinchins, center Matt Lee, guard Javion Cohen, and obviously quarterback Tyler Van Dyke is gone. Key arrivals, though: defensive lineman C.J. Clark and Marley Cook, safety Michelle Powell, quarterback Cam Ward, which is the biggest name for Miami this offseason, running back Damian Martinez, wide receiver Sam Brown, edge Tyler Brown, and defensive lineman Justin Scott, who is a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Some mistakes last year: obviously the Georgia Tech game was a big disappointment. That was a game that you really should have won if you had nailed the ball, and it ended up ruining what had been a undefeated season up to that start. Cam Ward does bring in a lot of excitement. He's the ACC preseason player of the year, and he had a really productive time at Washington State, and a lot of people are really excited to see what he does. And with all the additions that you bring in on the defensive line, especially Justin Scott, I expect you to have probably the second best defensive line in the ACC behind Clemson, maybe Florida State, but you're definitely in the top three, somewhere in between Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. The key for this year will definitely be execution. It's always been Miami's problem in their time in the ACC. There's a lot of hype usually surrounding the Hurricanes, and they just end up disappointing. But strengths: defensive line and wide receiver, and obviously quarterback experience. Weaknesses: the only real weaknesses I have for this team is inexperience playing together, and obviously the two safeties that you're going to have to start this year, with losing Cameron Kinchins and James Williams. There is a concern that maybe the chemistry doesn't gel for Miami with Cam Ward and the receivers, and really finding that running back that is consistent to balance out the passing attack and the rushing attack. And this isn't just a concern for Miami. This is also a concern for a lot of teams that are bringing in wideout talents like NC State, and Louisville also has this concern this year. But I wanted to highlight it with Miami because some people are bringing it up for NC State with the chemistry with the ACC Network and ESPN. And I don't really see people talking about it with Miami as much. I do understand that they have a few more weapons that have been there with Xavier Restrepo and the other wideouts there. I think it's just as likely that maybe Miami doesn't hit on all cylinders until halfway or a quarter of the way through the year, through the schedule, and then we really start to see what this team can be. Although I don't think that'll be the case, especially with their Week 1 matchup, which we'll get to. Even if that were to happen, if they lose that first game to the Gators, it wouldn't affect the conference standings in the ACC, and so they'd still be in a pretty good spot to make the playoff. And I think Miami has a really good shot at making this 12-team playoff, but it all comes down to execution for the Hurricanes, because year after year I've heard that Miami's going to be really good. Obviously they had that year under Mark Richt where they made the ACC championship game, and I don't think anyone will say, oh, well, we were disappointed by that season, because no one was really expecting them to do that. But they've had some really head-scratching losses, like the loss to Middle Tennessee State in Cristobal's first year, and then obviously again the loss to Georgia Tech last year, which was really inexcusable. The loss to NC State, where you guys could barely complete a pass. I mean, really just some bewildering performances. And I know a lot of people were really disappointed in Tyler Van Dyke last year and wanted him gone with all the NIL money that he received for staying at Miami. But it was just confounding, really. I really thought Miami was going to be good last year with Tyler Van Dyke. So let's get into the schedule. You start off week 1 with a really hard matchup against in-state rival Florida, and you're going to the Swamp. A really tough game, but Florida is not really expected to do that much since they have what is really the hardest schedule in all of college football. I think this will be a good statement win early in the year for you. I'll give you the win at the Swamp. Then you take on Florida A&M at home. You have much more talent than them. This should not be a problem. I'll give you the win. Then you take on Ball State. Same situation as Florida A&M. You're much better than them talent-wise. I'll give you the win. Then you go on the road at USF. USF did almost upset Alabama last year, although their offense was not able to get any sort of production against the Crimson Tide defense. I would just watch out for this game. It could end up being a slugfest for your offense, but despite that, I think you do get enough points, whether it be by field goals or a couple of touchdowns just throughout the game, to lift yourself over the Bulls. So I'll give you a win. Then you take on Virginia Tech, who is one of the teams that's also in contention for the ACC championship this year. If you were on the road, I'd be much more concerned about this game. But since you're at home and it's on a Friday, I'll give you the benefit. I think you get a win with the advantage of it being a weekday game and you're the home team. But it'll be very exciting. Then you go on the road at Cal. Cal has some talented position players, but really they are not as complete a team as you are. And I think you get the win against the Golden Bears. You have your bye week, and then you go on the road to face Louisville. Louisville, like Virginia Tech, is also on the hunt for an ACC championship game appearance. I think they're going to be a very good team, very capable team with Tyler Shuck at quarterback and the defense that they have. I think you take a loss. Then you take on Florida State in the big rivalry game. I think this will be one of the most exciting games for the ACC in the regular season. Two of the best teams in the conference, DJ Uiagalelei versus Cam Ward. They are the reigning ACC champs. I think their defense is going to be really good, and obviously your defense will be really good. But right now, I would give the edge to the Seminoles simply because I've seen better execution from Florida State teams under Norvell than I have under Cristobal. But I definitely think this will be a close game, a game that you will have a chance to win, and it could go either way. Then you take on Duke. Duke is going to have blind troubles this year. Although this will be later in the year with them battle-tested, I still don't think it'll be enough to match up to your lines of scrimmage, so I'll give you the win. And then you go on the road at Georgia Tech. And this was a big game last year that everyone saw with not kneeling the ball and fumbling and then giving it back to the Jackets, and they beat you on basically a last-second Hail Mary. And going on the road to Georgia Tech with that on your mindset and the steps forward that I think the Jackets will have this next year, I think they beat you again. And this will be a really frustrating loss for the Hurricanes. And then you have your bye week. You take on Wake Forest, which you should easily beat. They aren't going to be very good, although they will be improved from last year. And then you take on Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. And although they have Kyle McCord and Rondé Gadsden, they have some talented pieces. They aren't to the level of being a contender yet in the conference. I think you'll get the win. And I have you finishing at 9-3 with a 5-3 conference record. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.